Hello, 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 hello! Welcome back to my huge channel, everybody. You might have figured that within the last 4 years we underwent something in fashion that reminded us a lot of the French Revolution, Bridgerton, or Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette movie. We were obsessed with puffy sleeves, baby dolls, tie-up corsets, A-line dresses, and a lot of blush. I'm speaking about the Renaissance. The Renaissance meaning the revival or rebirth of something. In this case, in context of the European 15th and 16th century, the revival meant a comeback for the arts and cultures of the ancient Greeks, the learning and understanding of their architecture, literature, and art. Like in every other historical era, fashion was as important as ever, especially for women. Since career and socio-economic standing already defined men's position in society, women lacked such definite social classification. Instead, women, no matter what social class, could take advantage of fashion to transform themselves into something called the social negotiation. So fashion was a character and social life defining feature in the Renaissance. And I know you might be like, girl, your introduction doesn't fit with the title of the video. Why are we speaking about the Renaissance? You will get it, we're getting to it. And of course, there's no funny session without a disclaimer. Feel free to subscribe to this channel if you do enjoy my weekly videos. I do have a Patreon channel as well where you can support me. I do have a Discord server as well. I know it's crazy with so many people. It's the funniest and best place on earth. So all the links will be down below. And let's go. Even though the impact of fashion never changed throughout the centuries, it's pretty interesting to see specifically the comeback of the Renaissance in the 21st century. And it was pretty visible. Some people also like to call it escapism, which usually stylistic influences of past times coming into our current time period are called, because we turn our eyes not to the future but to the past. And there are several reasons for its comeback. With the rise of ambiguity and volatility in the current economic market, infused by some deadly pandemic that we had, fashion trends started to be mainly about dreamy, romanticized, and kind of sentimentalized aesthetics. The so-called cottagecore was invented, supported by a lot of Vivienne Westwood pieces. And I guess I don't even have to bring examples of social channels proving that Renaissance had taken over, but just to remind us all real quickly, Dilara Fundegolo is one of those brands that is inherently influenced by Renaissance and earlier ages. Fiorici came back from the dead with its logo that is not only inspired, but exactly the same visual as in the paintings of Raphael, who by the way is one of the most important representatives of the art movement in the Renaissance. Alexander McQueen shows with its new designer Sean McGurr for Resort 2025 romantic ruffled shirts, exposing cleavage and adding some flair to the arms, and this is menswear. Chloe's new designer is living the boho dream of the 60s, of course, which was even back then an answer to the post-war attitude, strongly inspired by the whimsical and ethereal ideas that the fairy tale-infused Middle Ages have. But just for you to know, the medieval fashion influenced about every era coming afterwards as well, which is the Gothics, the Renaissance, the Victorians, the Art Nouveau, and the postmodern era. If you want to know where Art Nouveau has its thing for whimsical, transformative, slightly campy thing for, it's definitely to some part the Middle Ages. But coming back to our actual video topic, which is the impact of medieval fashion on our current fashion landscape. So we're aligned that the fashion landscape was clearly influenced by Romanticism coming from the New Wave Renaissance. So we're all well aware that fashion is a cycle, visually and theoretically, and we love nothing more than repeating ourselves. Repeating ourselves also started with the era of Romanticism around 1800. Before that, we were actually pretty inventive and creative people, creating new designs and new fashions, and with the start of the Romanticism era, we kind of started to recycle a lot of the past days, and we still keep doing it. Within the last 20 years, I think we've seen every single decade of the 20th century, from the 20s look to the 90s look. We've seen it all. And what we have right now looks a bit different of what we had before. It's a bit more undiscovered, I would say. And I know that's funny because if you think of medieval times, you might think of people being prosecuted for no reason, the cleric, the plague disease, and witchcraft. And that's actually pretty accurate. But let's keep it for Europe, the Dark Ages, because actually just France and United Kingdom, because other countries and continents were actually flourishing in the Middle Ages. So the term Dark Ages was invented by Europeans because they've been through some dark stuff in that period as well. Coming down to where we actually see the inspiration in the fashion world that we have from the kind of weird medieval times. It's of course not always easy to make like a super distinguished difference between what is Renaissance, what is medieval, but we're speaking about a specific vibe here, and that is the joker, the fool, the clown. Never in my life would I have guessed that the peak of fashion will get influenced by the crazy, uncontrolled, and slightly demolished clown. But here I am as one of the first victims. After having consumed, after COVID, all this flirty, flowery, beautiful, pretty pink, everything around us, and having reconnected with nature, we probably got even more nostalgic and we got even deeper in it. Our ongoing crave for nostalgia is another reason why we're so obsessed with past times. Either the reality you're in or the future doesn't even appear very promising, you're bored, or there's nothing much to dream about. They say referencing the past means you don't dare to look forward and you're kind of scared of the future, you try to dig your head deep and you want time to stand still. I don't think that's true. I think our way of working with past times has changed and we like to integrate it into our lives now, because our perception on the future in the modern ages have changed as well. We don't want a life more easy anymore, so we are maybe a bit less inventive, but we want a life more meaningful. And that's why nostalgia fits perfectly, because it's giving us access to rare memories that we then again can include into our lives, still look forward, but also carry some sort of heritage with us. And I know I sounded like Caspar David Friedrich explaining his painting right now, all beautiful, romantic, nostalgic, but still, this all led to us being inspired by this entertainer, clown figure of the medieval times, the crazy one that is always scary in the movies. Yes, this is what nostalgia made us do. And we were going to speak about every garment that you see right now on the streets and in the stores, where you can see proof of the Middle Ages not being over yet. The clown stands for an uncontrollable, dark, humoristic but kind of scamming character. Maybe not the first character traits you'd like to be described with, but also kind of slightly deeper than the Renaissance person that is falling in love with brocade and velvet. But one more hypothesis I want to make before we dig deeper into the clothes. We all feel like clowns right now. We have to act like clowns to keep going, to be able to bear with everything, even though we're a generation that should pretty much love to look into the future because everything can only get better. We have all the options and possibilities. I think that's probably for 90% not the case. I think everybody is scared. Nobody wants to look into the future. So this also drives you kind of nuts. And being against the establishment is the essence of the clown. The fact that we are not okay with just seeing beautiful images, flirty stuff, cottagecore that is very much fairy tale core as well, and very unrealistic. The clown seems to be a very serious person next to it that is entertaining and funny, but also knows how to survive in this world. So I think the clown is a very meaningful character, and even though it's just stylistic features fashion gets influenced by right now, I think the character of the clown is super important, and I think a lot of people right now can identify with it, and I'm one of those people. So coming down to what you probably wanted to just see in this video, but I kept yapping here. So I said it once and I don't say it again. Everybody watching this channel should know by now I'm speaking about hats. Yes, in all forms and shapes, and even veils. Hats are one of the biggest trends. Am I happy about it? Yes. It's the only trend that I like because it makes me look less awkward on the street while wearing hats. Alaya, The Row, Gisanda, Prada. I have a whole video about this, you know it, go watch it. But hats remind us all of referencing older times simply because they are almost non-modern interpretations, except for some artistic millineries or our beloved baseball cap. Haven't there been hats in other periods as well? Yes, they have, but we're building a picture here, so keep watching. 2. Tights. Not only the French sans-culottes, way earlier men and women, but specifically men, were wearing tights as part of their shorty short looks. The amount of underwear-like garments paired with tights that we can see right now is monstrous, and I'm not mad about it. Google any fairy tale prince and you will see the hat and the tights. He will have them on and they will look good on him. I tell everyone, expose those legs, show those legs. Oh, you want to have a safe membrane, you want to feel less exposed, wear tights. Tights are there for the rescue. Tights are there to be used, and they're being used since centuries. So we should keep doing that. And who doesn't want to look like your fairy tale prince? Like, don't go to the rescue for the princess. I would just sit on my horse and leave. Nobody has time to wake up a princess. Like, if you wear those tights, if you wear this hat, you just leave. And 3, probably one of my favorites here, that is something very new, bloomers. Yep, you heard me right. Those tiny panties you used to buy for newborns, and now they're made for you. You can either choose to look like a tiny prince or a grown-up that wants to be fed. I love the look of bloomers. They literally turn you into a newborn, which makes me also believe I won't have any adult responsibilities. So I'm all here for it. And this tiny elastic band at the bottom makes it look like bubbly and voluminous again. And it reminds me again of something a clown would like. So I love bloomers. Next one, Venetian shoes, or how I like to call them, witchy shoes. A sculptural heel, pointy shape, and maybe even some shoelaces. I'm looking at you, Le Maire, Bottega Veneta, Yuan Wang. They're everywhere and might at first glance remind us of the witchcraft TV show infused 90s, like Charmed, Sabrina, Buffy, where tarot, astrology, and velvets were omnipresent. But guess what? Starting with the 80s, fashion turned its way away from rock and roll to the goth side, ending up with the whimsical thoughts of the medieval Gothics. Next one, bubbly skirts. Yes, we talked about them in my trend video. Yes, they're everywhere. And yes, they're reminiscent of medieval times. Coming to the last point, which is probably something a bit more abstract. It's really listening to the echo coming from fashion, runways, and also the styling of a lot of musicians. I don't have to remind you of the past Maison Margiela couture show with Galliano, I guess. And yes, we saw a lot of Victorian elements, but the whole idea of the show had medieval influences as well. A rising star of the music industry like Chappell Roan decided for a pretty literal clown look oftentimes, and pretty often also inspired by theatrical costumes that remind us of past rock star days, but also of medieval figures like fairy tales and ethereal personas. I think the current state of fashion also shows a lot how we are trying to either express our identity as clearly and realistic as possible, or how we just want to not hide, but feel more comfortable in costumes. Costumes are as big as never before. I see very like opera-esque and theatrical costumes. Also on the red carpets, on a lot of people that I wouldn't have guessed would ever wear something like that. And I think all brands go slightly into the direction of medieval goths. We don't see it in the 90s way. Like, we don't have the amount of black and Bordeaux velvets anymore anywhere. But we have the same energy and attitude of having something whimsical, but a bit deep, a bit dark also. I think that's the current zeitgeist. And we see that in so many looks. And it's very interesting to go through brands' online shops and see these pieces that are absolutely referencing medieval times, maybe on purpose or not, but that's not really important. I just found it personally very interesting to see it more and more also on the streets, and I wanted to express it and analyze it. So I hope you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you do like my weekly posts. As you might know, I do have a Patreon channel where you can support me, where I upload another video per week, which is a bit more personal, where I analyze my personal style, other styles, all these things. You can check my Patreon down below. If you like to communicate with other people, because we're not in the Middle Ages anymore and we have access to electricity, you can join my Discord server as well, where we are tons of people from all over the world. I think I checked recently and it's like 160 countries or something. So there are people everywhere. We have meetups, we have fashion discussions. It's probably the most non-toxic place in the fashion universe. And I don't want to brag about it, but sometimes I just feel like energies attract each other. So we have no toxic things. We post our daily looks, we share our questions, even if it's red carpet or some niche fashion thing, there's literally a person that can answer every question. I'm definitely not the smartest person there. There's so many amazing people. I personally enjoy to hang there every day. If you do want to join a community because you feel slightly lost and lonely in your small town, because that's the reason why I actually started a Discord. We even have a live call every 2 weeks, which is amazing, and you can show your personal wardrobe and all these things. One of my favorite video topics, to be honest, we also judge runways. So we also have days where everybody's sharing one runway and we watch it all together and then we talk about it. It's really kind of the friends you never had, and I love all my friends and I hope they don't watch this right now, but you can kind of find a second family. So please feel free to join there as well. The link will be down below. And of course, subscribe to this channel and my Instagram if you want to see a bit more of my looks. Thanks for tuning in and see you next week.